So good afternoon or morning or evening, depending on where you're based. We are convening today for a webinar on protecting places of worship, security research and innovation, which has been convened in preparation of the G20 Interfaith Forum, which will take place in Bologna, Italy, from September 12 to September 14, and at the same time in recognition and the presentation of the work which is underway at a family of projects which has been funded by the European Commission, so to speak, of the European Union, for those who are not familiar, and in particular through the Internal Security Fund. So I'm Marco Ventura. I'm a law professor at the University of Siena, and as the chair of one of the working groups of the G20 Interfaith, I would like to say a few introductory words about first of all, what is the G20 Interfaith? The G20 Interfaith has been, after a long phase of preparation, has been launched in 2015, at the time of the Turkish chairmanship of the G20, as a platform of religiously linked institutions and initiatives, gathering religious leaders or experts on religion, stakeholders in general from the civil society, with a view of interacting with political representatives, the government, international actors on undergoing a crisis, or more generally on global issues related to sustainable development. A second point I'd like to make is why for the G20 Interfaith is of relevance, of importance, an interaction with the EU. And especially this year, when Italy, a founding member of the European Union, holds the chairmanship of the G20. Now, the G20 Interfaith is very familiar with the development of the European Union as an increasingly prominent actor inside and outside of the EU in the field of religion and belief. An actor which is very respectful of the sensitive nature of this domain, extremely respectful and aware of the diversity of religions and beliefs, of matters of conscience, individual and collective, and the importance of the EU for the G20 Interfaith also resides in the supranational nature of the EU and the innovative endeavor of the EU, as witnessed in particular in the projects of global dialogue on religion in society under the responsibility of the External Action Service, and consultations on artificial intelligence in the framework of the dialogue of the EU with religious representatives under Article 17 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the Union. Now, a third point is that in this context, for the G20 Interfaith in its interaction with the EU, security, and especially security and freedom of religion or belief, are again of high relevance. They're extremely topical, they're crucial, especially as the G20 Interfaith adheres to the approach of the Organization for Security and Cooperation on Europe, which is based on the hope and belief that security and freedom of religion or belief are not foes, but indeed they are friends, and an alliance between them is possible and necessary. And in particular, when it comes to places of worship. But places of worship, we will listen our speakers now on that, a crucial place at the same time of tradition and innovation, and they are studied and engaged with in the context of this family of projects precisely based on this experimental value of them as a laboratory of new policies on security and FOB. It's time for me now to conclude, and let me express my gratitude for the speakers, well, for the audience, of course. Thank you for joining us. Let me express our appreciation for your work and gratitude for this partnership, of course, from myself personally, but also on behalf of the President and Vice President and Advisory Council of the G20 Interfaith. My gratitude goes, of course, to the Protector Project, which was in the first place the partner of G20 Interfaith, but we're also extremely happy because of our inclusive nature that it has been possible today to meet you all and to engage with the whole family of projects. So thank you again very much for this opportunity. A final word of thanks for the staff who's making this broadcasting and recording possible. And now the floor goes to Andrew Staniforth for the rest of the session. Looking forward to listening to you all.
Marco, thank you. Really do appreciate that kind introduction and just extend our welcome and thanks to you and the wider team at G20 Interfaith Forum. I'm Andrew Staniforth. I'm the Director of Innovation at Sahir Europe. We are a training security research consultancy operating at a global level, and my role today, not just as the coordinator of the Protector Project, but also is to be the moderator of this webinar. So let's just put this webinar into context today. Unfortunately, terrorist attacks and incidents of hate crime at places of worship now represents a serious security concern across the world, as extremists and terrorists promulgating hate and violent ideologies continue to commit crimes against places of worship with alarming regularity. Recent attacks on places of worship across European member states have revealed the exploitation of their intrinsic vulnerabilities and result from their open nature and public character. Now, threat assessments by Europol and the European Intelligence and Situation Centre confirm the focus of places of worship in Europe as target selection, which is also openly incited in terrorist publications online. The rising tide of security threats at places of worship of all faiths, which not only hold a special place in the fabric of a local community, but which also provides a symbolic target for terrorists to raise attention to their particular cause, has prompted, as Marco alluded to earlier, has prompted action by the European Commission. Now, as part of a broad range of measures to tackle security concerns at places of worship, the European Commission, through the Internal Security Fund for Police, last year launched a call for proposals encouraging law enforcement agencies, public authorities, academia, and the private sector to work together to enhance the protection of places of worship, and more specifically, has made funding available for partnerships to strengthen cooperation between public authorities and faith-based leaders and their congregations, alongside the sharing of knowledge, tools and good practices on protective measures across different EU member states. Now, what we will hear today are from 4 of those successful projects, learning more about their approach to develop the protection of places of worship and what they hope to achieve and the progress that they are making so far. The purpose of this webinar is therefore to exchange knowledge of the research and innovation projects being funded by the European Commission and their intended positive impact on protecting places of worship. So that concludes the introduction, and I think that puts today's webinar into context. We will have a series of 5 presentations, and we will start the first presentation in relation to Project SOAR, and I'd like to hand the floor over to Shaukat. So Shaukat, over to you. Really looking forward to hearing more about the SOAR project.
Thank you, Andrew, for that very kind introduction, and thank you to your team at Protective for putting together this very important webinar. And also thank you to the G20 Interfaith Forum for hosting this event in partnership with your organization. If I can share my screen, if you don't mind, and I will present from there. Can you see the screen?
Yes, Shaukat, yes.
That's great.
Great, thank you so much. So the SOAR project, as Andrew just mentioned, is one of those projects that has received funding from the European Union to look at protecting places of worship in Europe. The SOAR project is being managed and supervised by EFI, Enhancing Faith Institutions, which is an Irish-based company, but has its roots from an organization that has been involved with protective security since 2004, and that's Faith Associates in the UK. Faith Associates in the UK was involved with looking at developing governance and leadership and development for faith institutions since 2004. And this organization came about after detailed analysis of what faith organizations and faith institutions needed post 9/11. In 2006, the first publication came out about, in particular, managing mosques and Islamic centers, which were one of the fastest growing faith institutions in Europe. And there needed to be some guidance on how to manage these following the first and second generation migrations in the 60s and 70s to Europe. This developed into looking at strategic standards for faith institutions, and this basically started to develop a whole network of relationships in the UK as well as around Europe. Faith Associates then started to develop pretty much standards around how to manage these facilities. But in 2013, a very dramatic incident took place in the UK when an off-duty soldier was beheaded in London. When this incident took place, many faith institutions were attacked, and we were encouraged and invited to look at how to protect those institutions following that attack. And the figures in terms of the numbers of attacks just in the UK went into the hundreds. And unfortunately, extremists weren't able to differentiate between a mosque, a gurdwara, a temple. And this obviously drove the research and drove the development of how to protect places of worship across the spectrum of different faiths, in particular the UK, but then that expanded into Europe as well. Then we saw the very dramatic and very horrendous crime that took place in New Zealand, in Christchurch in 2019, when over 53 worshippers were murdered, and then the subsequent attacks in Colombo in Sri Lanka, where nearly 300 people, some say nearly 400 people were killed in churches in that great city. So from today's perspective, I just want to touch upon what's this project about, and how we're going to deliver it, and what we've delivered so far, and what the objectives are, and what the goals we're looking to achieve. So in the SOAR project, I think the team that's come together very much understands places and understands people. We understand places of worship throughout the spectrum of places of worship, and we understand the people that are using those facilities for worship, for recreation, for community engagement. And we want to develop and support practices that maintain those activities, but also keep people safe in Europe. The strategic ambition for this project is very much about effectively communicating what techniques, what tips, what information people need to protect their places of worship, bring communities together to help protect their places of worship and protect their way of life and protect their practices. We don't want extremists to win. We don't want people that wish to provide, that are delivering hate to win and stop our practices where freedom of speech and freedom of religious practices is enshrined within the European law and European mandate. And we also want to help decision makers make effective choices and effective decisions when it comes to protecting places of worship. These are our strategic ambitions, and we hope to achieve that by working through our project. We've got 6 work plans. The work plans that we have at the moment is basically in work plan 1, obviously the management of the project and coordinating across 7 European countries, and I'll explain which those 7 countries are. We want to develop a comprehensive communication strategy across the European Union, across all the member states, but focusing on the 7 key areas. We think communication is critical to this exercise. Really developing capacity of the leaders at grassroots levels of places of worship who are interested in developing capacity to protect their place of worship. Sharing the knowledge between decision makers at the metro level, at city level, at the national level and beyond, working together with policymakers to make sure that whatever decisions might be coming out of this project are fed up the chain and can be used to make effective and clear European decisions for member states. And 6, a very important area that we want to do is disseminate the knowledge amongst a network of practitioners that can work beyond the project. But also this particular area that we're looking to focus on is the concept of security by design. And I'll talk a little bit about that going forward. Our approach in this project is very much community focused, working with faith communities right at the city metro level, understanding faith leadership, understanding what faith leaders require, what their challenges are, and what they can and cannot do within the scope of their organization, and helping them within those remits, within those constraints, to basically develop their facilities to protect it from hate. Looking at the various networks that already exist in those cities, working with them, not trying to reinvent the wheel if there's already existing strategies in place, working with those strategies to expand and to broaden and to bring together other people that are not actually involved with particular practices to protect those facilities. One thing is very important in our project that we're not just going to work with very large venues, we're going to work with medium-sized venues and venues that also may not be documented as places of worship. And we know that, for instance, certain communities have established places of worship in non-registered facilities, and the information that we will be providing will also be available for those people as well. Our objective is to spread this message as wide as possible, so people that are working outside of venues which are not traditionally looking like places of worship, but people are aware in communities that, say, on a Sunday or on a Friday or on a Saturday is used for communities to worship at, we're going to invite those people as well. So it's very much looking at very micro level engagement, as well as at the metro level, say cathedral level. We're working with those people at the moment to kind of engage and to bring those people together as well. And those people are going to be brought together by a network of skilled practitioners that are in our team called CDOs. The CDOs are community development officers that are currently working in France, Belgium, Holland, Germany, Austria. The 2 other countries which we are looking to work in as well are Denmark and Hungary as well. But CDOs are currently on the ground. And if you would like to connect with those CDOs, you just need to drop me an email and I'll put you in touch with some of the CDOs that are currently on the ground engaging with community activists, community leaders, and faith leaders with institutions like churches, mosques, gurdwaras, temples, synagogues. So I touched upon this issue earlier, and one of our partners in the consortium is the European Council of Architects, which is the biggest council, umbrella body, representative body of architects in Europe. And we're working with them very closely to talk about this concept called security by design. How can you design into your facility, into your building, particular architectural features that can protect the building as well as the people using that building? And we will be using our communication platforms to basically talk about security by design, helping a facility to be designed in such a way, so even if you've got an old building, a historic building, what can you do to change the structure or add to the structure to protect the worshippers and maybe even protect the historical nature of that building? So security by design is a feature that we're going to dwell on in the training that we provide. And we're very grateful and very excited to be partnering with the European Council of Architects, which has over 300,000 members across the whole 27 member states. This is just a schematic of the areas that we will be looking at in the security by design. So the security advisors, which is the human element, technology, urban planning, architecture, and engineering. We know that this brings in elements of local policing, brings in local municipality planning departments, brings in the whole fabric of civil society engagement to basically develop a protective mechanisms to protect those places of worship. And we feel that this is an instrumental strategy and a long-term strategy to help protect places of worship. Just to reconfirm, these are the areas that we're operating in. We have people on the ground currently in France, Denmark, Netherlands, Austria, and Belgium. We are planning to have people in Hungary later on in the project, as well as Germany. But we've got people flying into those countries currently as we speak, but we've got people on the ground in those other countries. Our key focus in year one is currently France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. And in the second year, we're looking at keeping those 4 countries on board, but focusing a little bit more in Austria and in Hungary. But actually what we're hearing so far that there is a lot of interest currently coming from Austria. So we might be starting our events there as well. We're also very pleased to announce that we have the United Nations Alliance of Civilization partnering with us as well, who have a global view on protecting places of worship. And they're one of our strategic partners in working with us to disseminate our communication. And we're looking forward to working with them in due course. Just to conclude my presentation, the key expected outcomes from this project is to build an advisory network on places of worship and protecting places of worship, having a key web portal to offer people guidance and support, and a repository for information to be downloaded, provide evidence to policymakers who are interested in this area and help them to basically shape future policy. And also we'll be working with at least 50 locations around Europe that require bespoke advice and training to improve the safety of their facility following a risk assessment that we're planning to conduct via the CDOs. The website, if you're interested in contacting us and engaging with it, and if you want to share existing resources that you might already have, this is the website, soproject.eu. The website is live. If you'd like to engage, please do. There's a questionnaire there currently that we're asking people to fill in if they need any help and support and have a view on protecting places of worship. It'd be great to hear what your thoughts are. But that website is live and it's active. And if you want to communicate with us, by all means, please use the join button or engage with us through email as well. Materials have already started to go up. These are just some of the items that we have. Keeping congregational safe in an incident, looking at risk assessment during the COVID crisis. This is some information that's available for download already, and we plan to have regular updates on the resource section of the website. Happy to take questions at the end, but once again, I'd like to thank the G20 Interfaith Forum and Andrew and his team, the Protector team, for hosting this event today, and be delighted to take any questions in the future. Thank you so much. Over to you, Andrew.
Hi, Shaukat. Thank you very much for that in-depth presentation about your project. I can clearly see why the European Commission wanted to provide the funding and why it's proven to be a successful project. Could you just remind us when the project actually started and how long the project has to run?
Good question. The project started in April this year, and it will run up until March 2023. So we've just finished the first 5 months, and I can announce that we have people on the ground, as I mentioned, in currently Belgium and in Netherlands and in France and in Austria at the moment. We've got people operating on the ground, engaging with communities already, and the website is live. So we've had 5 months in, but as you know, with the COVID crisis, and it's, engaging on the ground is not easy, but luckily to say that in certain European countries, if you've had the jab, things are opening up. But yeah, it's a 24-month project, and will conclude in March 2023.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. I mean, it's just a reminder to the audience, please post any questions in the chat. I'll endeavour to ask them to our presenters as we move through. But I think what is evident and interesting to note from all of the projects in terms of those that funded under the Internal Security Fund for the Police from the European Commission is that these projects are research and innovation projects that have real action, that are looking for real positive impact and real positive outcomes. So not just research that will sit in a library for academics to peruse over in years to come. These are really action-orientated research and innovation projects that are looking to produce something positive at the end to enhance the protection of places of worship. And I think that's a key theme that no doubt will run throughout the remainder of the projects. Well, moving through the agenda, I'm delighted to introduce the next project. The project is called Prosecute, and that is being led and coordinated by the Centre for Social Innovation in Cyprus. I'm delighted to hand the floor over to Sotiris, who is the director of CSI in Cyprus. Sotiris, over to you.
Andrew, hi. Thank you for the opportunity to present in this forum. Thank you, the organizers of G20 Interfaith Forum, for the hospitality, and of course, Andrew and his team for this invitation to present our project. I will share now the screen. Does everybody see the screen with the presentation? I assume we are fine. Great. So our project is called Protection and Security for Places of Worship. It's led by the Center of Social Innovation in Cyprus, and it's a characteristic that we lead coming from an island where there is an inter-community and interfaith culture where many faiths and many cultures are coming together. So we find this extremely important for us as a center, but also I think it's critical for Cyprus to run such a project as leaders. Just to say a few things about the center, we are a team of professionals with many years of experience in different sectors. including social innovation, sustainable development, entrepreneurship, vocational training. And this, I believe, has been one of the primary advantages of this proposal, bringing together a variety of expertise on a topic where influences cultures like Cyprus. Our vision is to promote social innovation, social justice, and try to address systemic problems and challenges through innovative solutions where the center will be the people and the local citizens. Now, the Prosecute Consortium is composed by the Center for Social Innovation, from COFAC from Portugal, AK from Germany, GEMES from Greece, and RESET also from Cyprus. It's a small consortium, which make it very flexible, but we believe that it's a consortium which brings together different aspects of training and capacity building, as we will see later, for the stakeholders that we will try to outreach. Overall, the context of the project was developed based on the right of the freedom of religion, expression of faith, individually or with others in community. And we built on the freedom of religion as is declared by the framework of the United Nations and the human rights. Especially in the context of Cyprus, where many religions come together, many cultures come together. Such declarations from the United Nations drove, let's say, the evolution of the political culture of the island. And we consider that historical process as very, very important. The general objective of the project is to enhance protection at places of worship in Europe, and by setting up a cooperation between public authorities and faith-based leaders, and trying to understand better security threats by promoting awareness and raising awareness activities and capacity building opportunities. Now, the overall development of the project is based on 3 pillars. The primary pillar is the development of an innovative learning environment where we will provide training for local law enforcement security agents, public authorities, religious leaders, where through this process, we try to bring them together and create hubs, local and national hubs for collaboration. In parallel, through the research activities of the project, we expect to develop a manual of good practices on how to manage and face threats of security, especially in communities like the Cypriot one, where many religions come together. And of course, a series of raising awareness activities will take place in all these processes. Now, our primary target groups in the partner countries, but also all over Europe, are NGOs, religious leaders, policymakers, law enforcement agents, and community leaders. And our mode of work is to build on the findings and the assessment of international cooperation, based on which we will develop the training and coaching resources. We will try to identify good practices and combine practice and dialogue, lifelong learning, and informal educational models, especially for agents and stakeholders involved directly in the protection of places of worship. Here to say that the project started in May. Currently, we are in the phase of needs assessment and research and the collection of good practices. It's a 24-month duration. It's a very important period now because it's a period where we will map the ecosystem of gaps, challenges, and needs of stakeholders in protection of worship places. And based on that is where we will develop for the rest of the project all the resources and the material. The overall implementation, as we said before, will be based on training activities. We will try to develop a digital storytelling documentary where key figures and key faith leaders from all over Europe will be able to say their personal stories, how they collaborate with other religions and faiths, and how they all together protect the places of worship. It's going to be a documentary of around half hour, and we will try to send this documentary in many fora and many competitions. Also, as we said before, a lot of awareness raising activities and sharing of good practices. Now, the innovative part of this, and as Andrew is mentioning, these are research and innovation projects. So we try to provide something innovative in this context. And one of the innovative aspects is exactly the pedagogical tools that we will develop. It's going to be learning environments where gamification and virtual reality will be used to resemble real challenges in protecting places of worship, but also real cases that can happen in real life. So there's going to be this connection of reality and training. We will extensively use social media and media communication practices, because one of the primary challenges that we currently see is the lack of information and communication. Many people do not realize the importance of places of worship, not only for the faith of worship, but also for the community as a whole, regardless religion of faith. They are centers of cultural development, they are centers of networking, they are centers of collaboration. So we will try to use all media and all media practices to promote this approach. So that's all from me. More information will come up as we are only at the beginning of the project. These are my contacts. Drop me an email, come in touch with me and the team here in CSI anytime for this project or other opportunities for collaboration. And we will definitely looking forward to share more results with you in the months to follow. So thank you again for the hospitality, and we'll be around for questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Sotiris. Really good presentation. Thank you very much for that. And just a quick question from me, if I may. When do you think your first results might be available to share more information? That would be useful to know. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, currently we are finalizing the literature review of the project. And we are ready to present by the end of September the literature review and the theoretical part of the research. And after that, we will enter in the field research, where we will have focus groups with the main stakeholders and target groups, and interviews with key figures, community figures, religious figures, law enforcement agents. We expect that by the end of the year, we will have a comprehensive research package with mapping out all the challenges and needs of these agents, which we will send to all of you if you are interested to the outcomes of this research. And I'm confident and I'm pretty sure that these outcomes will be very helpful for the work of all of us.
Sotiris, thank you very much for that great presentation. Great to see and hear from you, and very best of luck with your ongoing research for the Prosecute project.
Thank you very much.
And now moving through the agenda, I'm delighted to introduce the next project, which is called Prosperous. And I'd like to introduce you to the coordinator of that project, who is Marcin. Marcin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Andy. And thank you, organizers and Interfaith Forum, for this opportunity to spread information about our activities. And I'm representing University of Laos, and please, I will share my screen. to show the short presentation about our one of our projects about protecting public spaces. Oh, just a moment. Just a moment. Excuse me. Okay, here's my presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so as I said, I represent the University of Lodz. It's a public university from Poland. And I'm a research assistant in the Center of Biohazard Prevention of the Faculty of Biology and Environmental Protection. And our center is I must say, involving in several activities in the field of preventing biohazard, biohazard and also CBR and threats. I mean, chemical, biological, and radiological threats, especially in public places. These projects are funded from the European Commission, from internal security fund policy, but also from the Horizon 2020. So we have the chance to have research activities in this field, and the same have the chance to, let's say, implement the findings into the real environment. This project called Prosperous protection system for large gatherings of people in religious places is one of the few which are doing in this field. The others are also about the security systems, but they are mainly focused on CBR and threats. And this one is rather focused on general terrorist extremist incidents in this kind of places, but also, of course, we will introduce how to prevent and protect the events with the use of the CBR agents. So the context of the project is that the religious sites are certainly a target for extremists, for terrorists, and also they are vulnerable to the attacks due to the open nature of such places, and usually the security measures are quite limited in such places. However, the concern is growing about the security, both from the leaders of faith organizations, but also public services. But still, there should be kept the balance between the security measures and also to keep the open nature of the religious sites. So our approach for this to challenge this situation is to establish the good environment for cooperation between scientists, security experts, as well as police units, public services, and the religious institutions. This cooperation will result in the preparing of the comprehensive system for prevention, protecting, deterring, and responding to various types of terrorist threats and incidents. And this system will be mainstreamed by the implementation by preparing the modular training with the use of e-learning and virtual reality, and by conducting large-scale exercises. And also the awareness raising campaign will be conducted during the implementation of the project, aimed at faith-based leaders, but also worshippers and the public in general. Our consortium is quite large. There are 18 partners from 6 European countries. And the first pillar of the consortium, there are partners which are experts in public protection in general, in conducting vulnerability assessment, security design, social innovations, training, learning. So they have a wide range of knowledge, of skills that could be useful to be adapted into protection of religious sites. And these experts will work together with law enforcement agencies as well as public services. We have 4 police units from Poland and from Greece, and we have also an institution dealing with the crisis management, and also have a higher school for fire officers. And we have also in our consortium faith-based organizations. There are they represent the larger structures of religious institutions, because we have Archdiocese of Lodz. It's in the structure of a Catholic Church, and this Archdiocese has around 300 parishes in the structure. Also the Social Observatory Foundation, they are cooperating with Wrocław Archdiocese, another structure from Polish Catholic Church. We have also Holy Metropolis of Ioannina, which give us the other perspective as being a place not only which serve as a religious center, but also there is a touristic center as well. And also we have a Jewish community of Warsaw, and it's also very, very important for us to see and compare their attitude towards security, and it would be very good to compare different attitude to security issues, and also to find best practices. Some objectives for our project to be done during the next 2 years. So first, as I said, it's very important to establish the cooperation between all these actors in our project. Then the very important part of the project is to let them to exchange the good practice examples, but also to elaborate the needs and gaps analysis. So we are going to exploit in our project the vulnerability assessment tool prepared by European Commission DG Home unit, and we have 2 partners from other ESFP project called Protect, and then they in this project adapted this tool to communities, to municipalities, and here we'll try to adapt this tool to religious sites, and we'll also examine 3 religious sites during the first phase of the project. So when we establish the current state of the security in our objects of analysis, then we will also check what is available at the market, let's say, in the field of protection of public spaces. both in as when procedures are concerned, some templates, some other materials, but also in the field of technological achievements. So as a result, we're going to prepare some protection measures in the form of security by design guidebook adapted to religious sites, and also a guidebook which will collect all our findings and being prepared for the needs of administrators of religious sites. And also, as I said before, we will tackle the possibilities or how to behave in the face of a terrorist attack with the use of Siberian agents. This set of measures will be introduced into the real world by preparing this in the form of a training curriculum accompanied with the training materials, also in the form of e-learning learning. And then we are going during the project to initiate the cascade scheme of training. So we are going to train a group of trainers and encourage them to go on with this training in their structures. Finally, there's a security raising awareness campaign in that project. It's a very, very, very important point to prepare promotional, let's say, disseminational materials in various forms, and address it to faith-based leaders, to worshippers, to public in general, to give them information what measures could be taken to prevent the attacks, to recognize the attacks, and also how to behave during the attacks to minimize the impact of that incidents. Okay, just finally the project summary. So it's funded by European Union's Internal Security Fund Police. The duration is 24 months, and it has started this June. The total budget is around 3 million euros. And as I said, that's quite large consortium with 18 partners from 6 EU countries. And our airport is still under construction, but here you should expect that any result prepared during this project will be presented. And we also will use other channels for communication. And if you find for you something that you would like to discuss with me or to collaborate, something in common between your initiatives, then please use my email at the university. Okay, so that's it at the moment. Thank you.
Marcin, thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. And just a quick question, again, in relation to, I know your project has really only just started, but when do you expect then to see the first results available that will be able to be shared publicly, do you think?
Yeah. I suppose because at the moment we are focusing on vulnerability assessment tools, and now we are adapting this tool to the context of religious sites. At the end of this month, there is a workshop in Eindhoven where we will pilot this tool, and then a manual plus this tool will be available. I suppose by the end of this year, so probably in December. But of course, it's also depend on the situation with COVID epidemic, if it will be possible to conduct our activities as they are scheduled.
Marcin, thank you for joining us today and for your presentation, and wishing you the best of luck with the continued progress of your project, and we hope to hear of your progress very soon. So thank you very much. And whilst I'm asking Tyler kindly to upload the Protector presentation on my behalf, thank you, Tyler. I can just comment that what is interesting so far between the projects that we've heard is, whilst the research call, it is the same call for all these projects, what we're seeing is different approaches, different new and emerging ways of tackling the similar problem, which is really interesting to see. But thank you, Marcin. That was fantastic. So I think moving down the agenda now, it's time for the turn of the Protector project. So Tyler, if you could have my presentation on screen, that would be great, and then we can work through that. Thank you. As I mentioned before, I'm Andrew Staniforth. I'm a director of SAHIR Europe, which is a security research and innovation consultancy based and operating in Estonia, but operating at a global level. And together with my fellow director, David Fortune, and with also our colleague, Professor Juliet Lodge, we've been progressing the Protector project, which started on the 1st of April. And for anybody wanting any news or updates or further information on Protector, then I can direct you to our website. That the address is there. Yeah, here we go. Thank you. So that was the opening slide to introduce Protector. I just want to tell you about the aims and objectives. But first of all, I'm delighted that Protector is supported not only by the G20 Interfaith Forum, but also by UNICRI, the United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute. Now, their involvement and support of the Protector project will enhance what we seek to achieve in Protector, which is developing security postures at places of worship to counter the threat from hate crime and terrorism. And we have a number of strategic objectives. The first one really is to understand the threat landscape. So we are conducting a thorough assessment of hate crime and terrorist incidents at places of worship. That work has just been completed, and the work is being submitted to the European Commission for assessment. And that really looked at a number of incidents at different places of worship, at different member states, to get a really insightful picture of the current context in which we're working in. The second objective was really to conduct a thorough analysis of law enforcement agency responses, practice and procedure when responding to reported incidents at places of worship. So how do law enforcement agencies and other public authorities respond to different places of worship in different member states and different environments? What protocols do they have in place? And more importantly, what's in relationships and partnerships and understandings of each other's needs and requirements? That's a really important part of the Protector project. And the third objective was seeking to strengthen protective security postures of places of worship. And I think this is important. This is not just about the physical security, looking at new and emerging technologies, which Protector is doing, but it's also starting to understand some of the practical measures that all places of worship could take to better protect themselves and their congregation, specifically around congregations, signage that they have in place, are all very important parts of the Protector project. Next slide, please. And as we look at the next slide, we see the final aims and objectives of the Protector project. So the fourth one is there to enhance the situational awareness, operational decision-making, and investigative capacity capability of law enforcement agencies when preventing and responding to hate crimes and terrorist incidents at places of worship. So really focusing on law enforcement agencies there, what are their capacities and capabilities to manage and respond, control, investigate, prevent, detect and deter issues and incidents around hate crime and terrorist incidents at places of worship. And then importantly, objective number 5 is to establish and strengthen cooperation between public authorities, faith-based leaders and congregations, all of whom have an active and proactive role in ensuring safety. As a former police officer myself, it's not just the role and responsibility of those in authority to look at public safety and security. We all have a role in society to protect ourselves, our neighbours and one another. So how do we bring all of that together? What is the role and responsibility of public authorities? What is the role and responsibilities of faith-based leaderships? And how can congregations also help in that, creating that environment of safety and security? Because everyone has a role to play, everybody has a part to play. Objective number 6 was looking at developing a security raising awareness campaign for places of worship. So what messages are communicated at raising awareness of security so that suitable risk assessments and precautions can be taken, but yet at the same time, not raising the spectre of insecurity and raising fear or panic, and to make sure that place of worship retain their sanctity in terms of that they can be attended sort of open and publicly, which is really important. And objective 7 was really to develop law enforcement agency, public authority, and faith leadership, protective security expertise. So how do law enforcement agency officers and public authorities, what's their level of knowledge of understanding of protective security issues, as well as actually how can we then exchange that knowledge and expertise and start to educate faith leadership and their congregations around some of the protective security issues. So taking together, those aims and objectives of Protector are really ambitious and give a broad focus to the Protector project. Next slide, please. The consortium for Protector is made up of government agencies, academia and private sector organisations. What we like to term here at Sahih Europe as bridging the gap being government, academia and private sector all working together, bringing their expertise together to solve a common problem. We are joined by the European Institute in Bulgaria that are supporting end user requirements, supporting in training and development and conducting a pilot, and also policy issues. We have the FBK University in Italy providing not just academic and theoretical expertise, but also providing their technical expertise and also providing expertise of theology from their particular religious school. So FBK, a really important partner in the Protector project, using 2 of their major schools and departments from their technical capability and their academic research activity within their departments, focusing upon religion. We're also joined by Garda, the policing Ireland. They are helping our gathering of end user requirements and assessment of security plans. Law enforcement agency partners are a really important part of the Protector project. And they are joined by the police in Antwerp, who will also be providing end user requirements and supporting a pilot. We are delighted that we have the police department and the University of Services of Bavaria in Germany, who bring enormous expertise in terms of research and innovation at the European level, but more importantly as well for Protector, because they are well placed in developing training to police officers and senior leaders in policing. They will help us design and fine tune our training elements of the Protector project. The community in Trento joined by their local police, again supporting end user requirements, and together with our colleagues and partners at the Swedish Police Authority, officers and staff engaged there in the prevention of terrorism are really helping us to understand strategies and policies and end user requirements. And taken together, it's a really strong consortium of partners that are bringing their expertise together for the wider benefit of the Protector project. Next slide, please. So I thought I would just spend some time not just really looking at the project plan, but I'd just like to draw everybody's attention really to the Protector outputs. And the Protector outputs down the right-hand side just really reinforce what I was saying earlier about the European Commission Internal Security Fund for Policing having real positive impact, tangible tools, techniques and technologies to really make a positive impact and to make a difference to safety and security. So just to quickly run through those Protector project outputs that we will be developing during this 2-year project, we will produce an engagement strategy which will help to support faith leaderships, public authorities and law enforcement agencies really to engage with each other and start to understand each other's security concerns and responsibilities. We are, throughout the course of the project, delivering a series of operational briefings to law enforcement agencies. So as we gather information that has of operational value that may be significant to inform our police colleagues across Europe, we won't just be waiting until the project finishes. We have mechanisms in place to produce operational briefings so that those changes can be made to policing policy, practice or procedure. Led by our colleagues at FBK, we will be producing a technical situational awareness tool, and I'll spend some time in a moment talking about the different pilots, but that technical tool and system will really help to identify, to detect and also prevent potential incidents of hate crime and of terrorist activity at places of worship. That will be underpinned and supported by a security handbook. That will make sure that we are communicating practical guidance and advice in relation to security at places of worship, underpinned by a control strategy for law enforcement agencies of how they can activate those plans and priorities. As we will be focusing on 25 different places of worship in 5 different member states, each of those places of worship will have a bespoke security plan that they will be able to take away to bolster and to strengthen their security at their specific place of worship, which we have managed to select from all manner of different faiths in different locations of different sizes of places of worship. We will also be pulling together a communications campaign. Many of you may be aware of the Run, Tell, Hide campaign that is being run by counter-terrorism policing agencies across Europe, which is in direct response to the marauding active shooter terrorist type incident. And we will be having a look at what other communications campaigns around security at places of worship can be developed, looking at specific crisis communication management tools and techniques. We will be developing a training toolkit so that everything that we learn that can be passed on, that is of practical assistance to places of worship and their leadership, we will be passing on in a toolkit. And just as the webinar today is communicating some of our results, we have a series of webinars every 3 months. Our next webinar will be later this year in December, and we are going to take a specific focus in relation to ethical issues around the development of new emerging tools and technologies in the context of protecting public places and more specifically places of worship. And finally, in month 12, which will be in March next year, we will hold a roundtable seminar event in Brussels, and finally supported by a final conference during March 2023 at the close of the project to ensure that we're communicating all of our results. So that's just an overview of a snapshot of the work that is currently being undertaken by the Protector Consortium. We are currently in month 6. So we are at a very busy period with just coming to the end of what we have called phase 2, which is assessing the threats and vulnerability of police responses and places of worship security plans. Next slide, please. And a major thrust of our work in Protector is leading to a series of 3 pilot events to be hosted by our consortium partners, those in Trento in Italy, planned for November next year, and also then in December next year in Antwerp, in Belgium, and finally by our colleagues at the European Institute in Sofia in Bulgaria in January 2023. These locations have been specifically selected because of a range of different places of worship within close proximity to one another, and how the complete and holistic Protector system of security measures can be brought together to strengthen the security postures of places of worship and to support their protection. Next slide, please. As that really concludes the introduction really to the Protector project, I would again draw your attention to the website to take a look at the different news items, the different deliverables that will be shown on there, and you will also find Protector activity, and you can keep updated with our Protector activity via LinkedIn, Protecting Places of Worship. I look forward to receiving any questions, but I think in summary that completes the presentations of 4 of the projects that were provided funding by the European Commission, DG Home, Internal Security Fund for Policing last year. You will see that all of the projects have really just started, some being 6, 4 and 3 months in. So we are now starting to gather information that will be publicly made available to protect places of worship. So again, just to pass on my thanks to the G20 Interfaith Forum for hosting this particular event. And I would like to then just hand over to an advisory board member of the Protector project, where we're very fortunate to draw upon the skills, expertise and broad knowledge provided by Dr. Richard Burchill. And I would encourage any audience member just to read the extent of his knowledge and experience in terrorism, law and associated matters. So we're delighted to have you supporting the Protector project, Richard, and really over to you just for your insights in relation to some of the issues that you've heard today from those last 4 current research and innovation projects. Richard, great to have you with us. Over to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Andy. And thanks to all of the presenters, some really good presentations, some very interesting works going on. Looking forward to start seeing some of the results of your work. But it's essential stuff, absolutely essential. And it's great that the G20 Interfaith Forum is taking this on as well. So thank you very much, Marco. And typically, as many of you will know, when you're asked to do a panel summary, sometimes you're sort of sitting there struggling, trying to find connections or links between the presentations. I can say without a doubt that that was not a difficulty here at all. All of the presentations are directed, as you know, in Marco's introductory comments said, a key issue in our societies, in our communities, religious places and their protection, so that individuals and communities can pursue their faith, in a secure manner. Very important issues, very big issues, unfortunately, in today's world, because due to extremists, terrorists, violent extremists, places of worship are sometimes, unfortunately, easy targets. But also, there's the difficulty that acts of terrorism are also acts of theater. People are trying to gather extensive attention to their extremist ideologies. So they do go after them, as we've seen over and over again. So the importance of this issue, as was highlighted, is just very pressing in today's society. One of the things that I found most important about the various projects that are going on is their focus on community. Is their focus on the users of these spaces, not just those that are part of the faith of a particular institution, but the wider community. And it is all about sharing these spaces for whatever reason, for community activities, for cultural activities, for tourism, and for religious practices as well. And in many respects, I would say that's where the real innovation is, and much of what is being done across these projects is the human focus. Yes, the technology is very important. Yes, the physical security measures are extremely important, but making sure that the societies, the communities, the users of these spaces feel secure and know they're secure is perhaps the most important issue, because too often in issues of policing and security, that part gets overlooked. So I would say across all the projects, everybody is looking at different dimensions of this, from responses to keeping the balance between security and the open nature of places of worship. And again, just to ensure that we can all take part and enjoy these places as we wish. The other key issue that I'm seeing with all the projects as well is the communication dimension. Everybody was talking about various projects with the community, faith leaders, security authorities, politicians, policymakers, production of materials, videos, etc. And that's going to be a really strong part, because as was said by everybody, even though these projects only go a couple of years, this issue carries on long term. And unfortunately, given the sort of state of extremist thought, it's going to carry on for an extensive amount of time. So in that respect, I mean, all I can really say is that if we can ensure that religious sites are well protected, while at the same time allow for their openness, allow for a diversity of people to be part of these places, we go a long way in turning off some of the terrorist extremist arguments. Because typically they're based on grievances where they want to go settle a score. And if we remove that part, we allow people to have this open space, this sharing of humanity, as the Interfaith Forum talks about. We will go a long way in removing some of these extremist ideologies. That is the most important part about a lot of these projects, is the way it will spread that out and provide protection. Now, I know this year the G20 Interfaith Forum's key theme is healing, coming out of the COVID pandemic, or we're still in the COVID pandemic. And healing, of course, is very important in following any sort of traumatic event in our societies. What I'm hoping for from these projects and other work in this area is that we're seeing the technology, the science, the policy development, the official practices, the informal practices are going to provide levels of protection where hopefully we can avoid or prevent further traumatic events through attacks on religious sites. Then we don't have to worry as much about the healing, and rather we can worry about sharing in the common humanity, learning more about other people in other places, and providing a much more positive message across society. So I'm just going to sort of wrap it up right there, because again, like I said, it's just fascinating work. It's great that it's being done. It's great that the G20 Interfaith Forum is bringing these sort of practitioners in to discuss their stuff, because we all need to be part of this, and having this sort of work being done across communities, across disciplines, is going to be very valuable going forward in trying to help counter and prevent further terrorist attacks and the rise of extremism. Thank you.
Richard, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that summary with some key insights in relation to some of the important issues that have just been discussed in the last presentations. It just leaves me to finally thank our colleagues at the G20 Interfaith Forum, and for those that will watch this later on that haven't joined us live, please engage with the project on social media and visit their websites for further information. And I do wish the G20 Interfaith Forum in Italy every success. And it now just falls to me just to hand over to Marco for any final and closing comments. Marco, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to the colleagues and friends for their presentations. I had no doubts before the start about the relevance and significance of this panel for the forthcoming G20 Interfaith Forum in Bologna. I'm, of course, even more convinced now after listening to your presentations and gaining a deeper knowledge about your projects. And indeed, your work is going to be of great inspiration for the G20 in many respects. If time allows, let me just underline a couple of aspects that I picked as particularly relevant for our work. A preliminary point may be there. G20 Interfaith is by nature global. And the European Union here is really sort of making a difference. That there's a potential, and even more than the potential, for the European Union to really be a leader in the best sense, of course. So, this is just a preliminary remark, which is very dear to me. Again, the EU doesn't have an heavy religious policy. It's not like nation states, but this is really becoming a plus because of the diversity which is involved, the creativity which is involved, the role of innovation. Well, this is there. The first point is this creation of expertise with a strong view of combining the knowledge, the creation of knowledge, but at the same time, this strong action element. And this is very important in this area. We need to get a better knowledge and better expertise about the objective dimension of threats. We learned, that threats to worship places are not limited to just physical assault or physical damage. There's a changing objective nature of it. And of course, there's a change in perceptions. There's fear, there's shifting, sensitivities. This is all extremely important. And then the second point, partnership. I think that's what, when I say there's the strong inspiration here, there's also responsibility, there's also challenge. Of course, in the interfaith conversation, the most obvious posture is for religious or belief actors to actually claim they should be listened at. And of course, this is so true. But at the same time, what I take from your work is that there's a responsibility for them to be able to engage in a wider conversation. And, the security agencies, architects, I listen, this security by design, I was fascinated by that. The innovation communities, not just engineers in technology, but social innovation as well, thinking of our friends in Cyprus. So there's a challenge for the actors in the G20 Interfaith to be able to be a part of this conversation, which might not be obvious. And I think that your family of projects can be a great example in that dimension too. Sorry, I went a bit too long probably, but that's just, witnessing to my passion for your work and my gratitude for this panel. So maybe back to you, Andrew, for a final word and the closure of the panel.
No, thank you, Marco. That was brilliant. So it just falls to me to formally close this webinar. I hope there's been something there for everybody. Please follow the projects online by social media and the websites, and we'll look forward to getting together soon for another webinar where we can hopefully tell you more about the fruits of the research and innovation actions that we've been taking. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye from me.